Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. My name's Jackie Boyle, and I get the pleasure each week of being able to host this call for Dr. Joseph Ahrens. He's an esteemed scientist and a formulator of two products that we know very well, and he also loves to actually share knowledge with you. So creating a space and opening up our eyes to educate us with information about general health and well-being. And today's topic is about a low-carb diet and weight management for both weight loss and also for weight gain as well. So how are you, Dr. Ahrens?
I'm doing great. I hope you're fine. I think you're in good form.
Yeah, it's Friday here in Australia, so we can tell you what the future looks like. And and it's spring, so it's warm weather, so it's good. Happy. So as we go forward, I'm going to hand this over to you because I was saying earlier before we started recording this that having a fitness center and owning a fitness center for over 25 years, I found it really fascinating that in general, a lot of people wanted to know what a low carb diet looked like. What was it? What were the benefits of being on a low carb diet? And most of them were seeking to actually manage their weight for a loss. They wanted to lose weight. But there were the percentage of people that actually also wanted to gain weight. It was a smaller percentage, but genetically, some people are born where they find it difficult to actually put weight on. But there are benefits by following a low carb diet to do that too, because they're eating healthy to benefit them. So I'm going to hand this over to you, and you can share your information because it's certainly a lot more in depth and it comes with a lot more credibility than what mine does. So I shall be quiet.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad as usual to be here. It's our Thursday for the rest of the world, I think, most of the world still. So I'm glad to be here every Thursday or Friday morning. We can share some health information with you. And we've been recently talking about diets, and in particular, we're in the range of the low carb diets. Last week, we talked about keto, and I'll just review that a little bit to get that fresh in your mind. But we're going to be talking about low carb today. And as we go forward in the future, we'll be talking about some other diets. So I'm not just here to promote one diet type. I certainly have one that works good for me. And I also remind you, diet, as you just said, diet doesn't mean something you go on to lose weight. That's what people usually say. In fact, they say, well, I'm dieting. I bet you 99.5% of people would say, oh, they're trying to lose weight. But diet is just what you eat, your diet. And one person's diet that works for them may not work for you. I do tell you ought to try different diets if one or the other doesn't work for you, but it always needs to be healthy. So let's keep that in mind. I'm not a fan of those diets that just restrict one particular item. You need balanced nutrition. Besides the vitamins and minerals, you need protein, fat, and carbs. Those are the three main groups. Calories come from all of those. Most of the calories do come from fat items because the fat is dense in calories. So if you ate a kilo of fat over a day and you ate a kilo of carbs, there's a whole lot more calories in the fat. So think of that. If you are trying to reduce calories, it's the easiest to reduce fat. And people do think, oh, fat, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to lose fat. Let me cut out the fat in my diet. That's not how it works. You don't eat fat, goes into your stomach, and then fat somehow gets across your stomach lining, intestine lining, and gets in your blood and then goes into your fat tissue. That's not how it works at all. Everything is broken down to its smallest component that can actually then be absorbed and get across the gut lining. And then your body uses what it finds there for energy. It's really just trying to get energy. You can actually live on protein. You wouldn't be very healthy, but you could burn, so to speak, protein. So instead of just having protein to build your own muscles, so the first thing is protein would be broken down into the amino acids, the individual amino acids, go through the gut lining into your bloodstream, and then be reassembled by your own DNA into other proteins. And that's where then you would get the protein for your muscles. And also for some people, hair made out of protein, fingernails, this is keratin. There's structural protein, but also if you did not have an energy source, if you didn't have enough carbs or enough fat, your body would actually use those proteins and burn them for energy. Just like a fire to make heat, your body does a real similar process inside your cells. Okay, so let's step back a couple of sentences. Keto diet. That's a diet that has very little carbs. We're talking about 5 up to maybe 20 grams of carbs a day. That's not much at all. And what the purpose of that is to force your body to look elsewhere for its energy, because carbs are glucose, and glucose is so easily used by your body for energy, it uses that first. Well, what if you don't have enough carbs? Then your body switches over to using fat and protein as its energy source. And from that process, you do in your urine, you have ketones show up. And that's really the only way for you to know if you are in a ketogenic diet. That is a diet that is absolutely using fat as energy. Ketogenesis. Ketogenesis. So you make keto. You can actually buy little kits. You can test your urine and see if you have ketones coming out in your urine, and you know you'll be in ketosis. That means you know your body is using fat and protein for energy. You will lose weight that way. You will. Personally, for me, if I was on that a long time, it strains my kidneys. Some people, it doesn't bother me. It bothers me a little bit. Also, as your body is hunting for this food source, it doesn't know what to do, actually, because you haven't been like that in a long time. And you can actually get what's called the keto flu. You get a headache, you feel like you've got the flu, you feel sick for a while, but you'll usually pass through that. And I'm not going to give anyone any recommendation on being on a keto or not. That's everyone's individual choice. There was a time that I had a little extra weight, about 40 pounds, about 18 kilos extra. And I just went on a keto diet for a month, and I lost it. I lost about 18 kilos. And once I got there, I got off and then went into a low carb diet. So that was keto. And you could read yourself on the pros and cons of a keto. I say, yeah, you could do that to lose weight. And but boy, you can't hardly take anything. No bread, nothing, no breading on chicken. You can't drink any beer, can't drink any wine. A glass of wine will put you over the limit. So it's very restrictive, but it works for some people if they do want to lose weight. But now the low carb diet, which is we're talking about today, what is a low carb diet? It depends on the individual. Experts and nutritionists say it's around 20 to 50 grams a day. They consider that a low carb diet, 20 to 50. And even that is very difficult to maintain. For me, 4, 5, just after 18 beers, I've already got too much carbs in my body. So realistically, just 2, 3 glass of wine, a beer, a couple of pieces of bread, and you're actually up there to 20 and 50 grams a day. So it is restrictive, but it's much more manageable. And actually, in my own research, I think this is what when we were hunter-gatherers, back before we had processed foods, when we were eating a natural diet, I think this is what we had. We didn't find, there were no big potatoes. When we found roots that we could eat, they were very small, and they were not, they didn't have a lot of water in them either, but they were concentrated, but they were small. And so as we could find those, we would eat them. All kinds of roots and tubers, just looking to survive. And so we didn't come across these big, I got a potato and right here that I haven't eaten. I'm afraid to eat it. It must be that big. And I said, my goodness, that's like 200 grams of carbohydrates. I don't know how I'm going to handle that. But we didn't have a massive amount of carbohydrates come into our body. So our body is not really made to get a massive amount of carbohydrates. And when you take in that massive amount, which we all do, even a glass of cow's milk is excessive, because you know that we didn't actually have cows 1,000 years ago. We didn't capture cow. That's fairly modern invention of man, is to domesticate these type of animals. So we've come across blueberries, very good product. Dark berries, excellent. But the wild blueberries that we had available to us a couple hundred years ago, they didn't have a lot of carbs in them. They weren't actually that sweet. Have you all ever gone out in the woods? You can still find some of these old-fashioned ancient blueberries. They taste good. They're concentrated, but they're just really not that sweet. A little sweet, but not much. Likewise, strawberries. They used to be really tiny things. You can still find those in the woods. They're just like big as your fingernail. They taste good. But they're not really that sweet. And so our body was never exposed, or our bodies were not made to be exposed to high blast of these carbohydrates. Your body wants a little bit of carbohydrate at a little at a time throughout the day, as you would go through and hunt and gather these things, not just, like a kilo of strawberries. And certainly there were never any donut trees. I haven't come across any scientific paper that said there used to be Dunkin' Donut trees anywhere. I don't think that existed. So that's unusual. That's a massive amount. Oh, just one donut. Well, if you eat one of those, you're already out of low carb for the whole day, especially the glazed ones. Remember, carbs are not just sugar, table sugar. It is the things I mentioned, like bread. Even though bread, it tastes a little sweet to us, but mostly it doesn't. But that's really just all sugar, all glucose. And we didn't have a bread tree either. So a bread fruit, but that's a completely different thing. So I said, when I was looking at myself saying, I want to eat healthy. I know how to do it. What does my training say? So I researched it around 10 years ago and started looking at things like low carb diet. I wasn't looking for a low carb diet. I just put together a diet that I thought would benefit my body. I wasn't trying to lose weight. I was just trying to be healthy. And so when I got through putting this diet together, I found that it was a low carb diet. In fact, it's what's called a caveman diet or primal diet. And it's that by its proponents, it is what we ate when we were hunter-gatherers. They ate meat as they came across it. They ate all the fat they could because it's energy. They're trying to stay alive. They didn't have that many vegetables. They did come across small tubers. They had a lot of roughage in their diet, and we need that. And so that's how I arrived at the low carb diet. For me, it has worked. Now, if you go down too much low carb, you're going to have difficulty maintaining your muscle mass. In order for you to maintain your muscles, and if you want to increase them, you have to have carbs. That process requires carbs. So that's another little issue with the keto diet is there's not quite enough carbs in there to maintain muscle mass, or especially not to increase it. You would have to, even if you take massive amounts of protein and protein powders, you have to have enough carbs. So I'm thinking, 20 grams to 50 is probably will do you the best, especially if you're trying to increase muscle mass. And you mentioned that, Jackie, earlier about weight. That's a very poor indicator if you're fit or not. And also the BMI tables are just wacko. They have some use, and they were developed by insurance companies, not scientists. The BMI tables were developed by insurance companies to try to figure out if you're healthy or not, and then trying to calculate if you're going to probably have a heart attack in the future. That's how they started out. And of course, they're trying to reduce their risk, but they're not there particularly for health, especially if you have a lot of muscle mass. You'll be seen as overweight on those charts. And that's usually what's happened to me and my doctors. I don't carry a lot of fat, and I do have a lot of muscle mass. And I'd go in, the BMI tables told me I was off the chart here. This guy's overweight, bordering on obese. And I just actually one day said to my doctor, look, do you think I'm overweight? And he had to say no. I said, so get your nose out of the book and the paper, and let's talk about being healthy. And that's what I'm saying to you. Forget the weight. Are you healthy? And you need to get a tape measure, not a scale, a tape measure. And the diameter of your thigh and your upper arm, your chest and your waist and your hips, that's what's going to tell you if you are healthy or if you are a proper weight. Because I don't talk a lot about this, about the amylin, but absolutely amylin will promote development of muscle mass, and it will antagonize, or it will decrease your fat tissue. So it doesn't convert fat into muscle, but it does help you gain muscle mass, and it certainly helps you lose fat mass. And but people, some of them have been on it for a while, and they say, wow, I gained weight. I said, no, I don't think you actually got more fat. You've probably got more muscle. We did a study around 6 years ago where we had people that were obese, and they got on amylin, and after a month, their waist measurement had dropped 19%. So that is quite a bit, but they had not hardly lost any weight itself. So they had a conversion there from the fat mass into the muscle mass. Get a tape measure. That is the best way to do it. Low carb, I feel, is the most natural for me. I'll say that again, for me, because I think it does mimic what our DNA inside is trying to accomplish. If I go over 50 grams of carbs, my body starts making a lot of insulin, and it wants to pump that glucose from those carbs right into the fat tissue. That's one of the main purposes of being on a low carb diet, is to control that insulin, because insulin's job is to put glucose into fat tissue. That's its main job. And if you take carbs slow, the insulin does not peak and spike up. And instead of going then right into fat tissue, you can burn that up as you get it. That's the key. That's the purpose of a low carb diet. It's not just to lose weight. It's not about calories. And as I said earlier, calories can come from fat. You can get completely off of a carb on a keto diet and have more calories than you had on a high carb diet. Be careful. Balance. How many times have I told this to everybody? Balance, balance, balance. Reset yourself. Look for that spot where your body wants to balance evenly at. Don't cut out all the fat. Don't cut out all the protein. Don't cut out all the carbs. Those are diets, recipes for disaster. Balance yourself. Let's also include drink liquid. It's recommended by most people to 8 glasses a day. Okay, that's a bunch of nonsense. I actually was reading this morning, that original paper actually said water or other liquids. So you get let me say a glass worth, 250 mils worth of watermelon, and that's actually 80% water. It's like drinking a cup of water. Also milk, certainly water. Beer, that's absolutely a liquid that counts as that water intake. So eight cups, but anything liquid works for that. It's not just water. And on top of that, some people just don't need 8 cups. They get by on 4, 5, or 6. How are you going to know how much you need? Hey, are you thirsty or not? The thirst and the hunger signals are 2 completely separate signals. 2 completely separate. You can drink a lot of water and fill up, and you say, okay, I'm full. But the part of you that says, hey, I need more protein, or I need more fat or carbs, it's still there. That signal is there. And just after a few minutes, you want to eat. And then after a while, you'll be stuffed from food and you stuffed from water. No, just go by your own thirst. Go by your thirst. That really works. And I absolutely studied this, as I said, this morning, and I came across 2 research papers that said that's absolutely true. Just go by thirst. And probably most people need 6 to 8 glasses, just like sleep. You know, we say 8 hours. Well, some people only need 5 hours. Most people need 7 to 8. So there's people that need more than 8. Some people just need 6. So always have water in these diets. Only measure yourself. Don't go by the scale. And don't cut out any one thing. Don't have a no carb diet. Don't have a no fat diet. People do lose weight on like a no fat diet because they don't have any calories, but fats also are needed. You know, all of this, your cells, every cell has a membrane around it. In fact, that's what holds everything together. It doesn't have a real wall. It's just a membrane. That membrane is made out of fat. We have to have fat. We have to have carbs for energy. We also have to have carbs to help us make muscle, and of course we need protein to make muscle and to make all the other enzymes in our body. I think that's a good recap. Do you have a question about that, Jackie?
Well, sorry. Well, Dr. Ahrens, I have to say is that over the years, what you've explained just makes sense, because I've seen a lot of women, and I'm going to talk about women predominantly here in the fitness center itself, because it was always a big case for women pre and post having children, that weight was always a big issue. And that was for a personal issue, but also for society's issue of what the expectation is of what we should actually look like. So then we try to fit into that mold. And then, of course, men would feel the same pressure for different reasons as well. But when you're talking about the BMI scale itself, I was having a bit of a smile to myself, because I don't know how often, like when I had the fitness center and I was very fit and I did have a lot of muscle mass, that I was always considered as being obese. And for me, I used to think, so it was the first, education for me that I used to think, are you serious? These things that we have in my top corner here, the scales, I threw them out. And because it used to really play with my head in what I should be like looking like on the scales, as opposed to what my body actually was looking like in my clothes. So the muscle mass weighed heavier, but I was leaner because I had a low carb diet. I exercised on a regular basis. My BMI actually did tell me that I was overweight, but in actual fact, I was lean, and I was very fit, but my muscle mass weighed more. But I maintained a low carb diet. But as I said to you before, Dr. Ahrens, it was really interesting. I had 3 ladies in particular that I struggled on. The very first lady, when she brought this issue to me, because she wanted to put weight on. And I just said, and she was a wife of a professional football player. And I thought, wow, first of all, initially I did think that it's the pressure of society. She's a wife of a professional athlete. You know, she needs to be looking in a certain manner. But in actual fact, it was genetics for her. She was a lean person genetically. She was born that way. So unless she actually exercised and she created and she developed like muscle mass so that she could put size on and maintain a really healthy diet still. So she still kept a low carb diet and fueled her body with really good food choices. But she exercised and did resistance training so that she could actually create muscle mass, so she could put size on. So she actually had some shape and she wasn't like a toothpick. So it really created and opened my eyes up. And then there were a few others afterwards that my mentality at the time was it's always about weight loss, because predominantly society has us, the greater percentage of people are wanting to lose weight. There are people out there that are wanting to gain weight. But then as the education process went on and my knowledge expanded, that I realized that it wasn't about either. It was really about actually having a balanced low carb diet for the benefit of what I could see, but more importantly about what I couldn't see, so that my internal organs were actually thanking me because they didn't have that visceral fat. They didn't have all of the external pressures of having an unhealthy diet, whereas my lifestyle choices were a lot better. And so my body thanked me for it. So I don't know if that's really opened up anybody's thoughts there. If someone else wants to make a comment.
Well, certainly most of us, on the average here around the planet and in the Western developed type world, we are fat, and we do need to just cut out the calories. And certainly lower your calories. That's very simple to do. Well, not by habit, but to calculate. You just go ahead and figure out how many calories you need to maintain your body weight, and then subtract 10% a week and lose weight gradually. That's another issue here. If you're looking to lose weight gradually. Yeah, everybody gains weight over 40 years and then wants to lose it in 1 month. So that's just not healthy. And you need to do it gradually, but do it with a tape measure, not with a scale. Now, if you want to follow your scale, I'm not going to stop you from doing it. It's an easy thing to step on the scale every morning, but it's not going to tell you the real story, as we've just said here. And there are people that actually do want to gain weight. Most of us are worried about that little belly fat, thigh fat, butt fat. That's not visceral, that's visceral, I guess. So that we want to lose that. And but look at the tape measure as the best thing that you can do.
And I think so. And the other thing too, Dr. Ahrens, that I'd like to mention is the manipulation of what you eat too. So, I go by, I'm going to use David, which you've met him, my husband, that he manipulates his diet because, like you, he likes a beer. So for him to be able to balance the scales, he will manipulate his diet so he can allocate being able to have his choice, which is he likes to have a beer. So he'll manipulate by increasing his exercise, but he'll lower his carbohydrate intake to accommodate that. And that suits his body. So, that's where I think as we age too, and you will tell me if I'm correct or if I'm incorrect, that everybody's body is so different. So then therefore there is no one shoe fits all, and that we need to play with what we're having in our food choices, our healthy food choices, balance it with a really good exercise program for age appropriate and for what your capabilities are, and manipulate it and see what works for you. So that if you're going to have a bad day and you have bad choices, it's okay. Go and enjoy life, live. But get back on the track again and start and have those healthy choices again, and do a little bit more exercise maybe the next day to balance and counterbalance what you have done. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Dr. Ahrens.
Well, I do know your husband, and I've been out pub crawling with that guy. And so I also manipulate my diet. And when I get ready to go out with him, I don't eat anything for 6 weeks so I can keep up with him. So, but I do basically an 80-20 rule. That's like one day of the week. I do have potatoes, or tonight I'm probably going to have some rice. But yesterday I didn't have any carb. I'm not just particularly trying to, well, except for the beer. I'm not counting that though. But I cheat, one day. Why? Don't be miserable. 1 or 2 nights meals a week. Go ahead and have that toast in the morning, and no, don't have the donut. Don't ever do that one. But go ahead and have the toast, and go ahead and have the serving of rice or pasta once a week, once or twice a week. And so you can keep your interest in your diet. So I eat a lot of vegetables and salad. I love salads in particular. You need that for the roughage in your body. The undigestible carbs, that's all the leaves and things there. And they're also full of vitamins and minerals. So I eat about half of my plate is salad. I eat a lot of salad. And then the rest of it is those 3 things we've talked about, which is fat and protein and carbs. So then the next thing is I kind of move into the protein. If it's in my case like a pork chop, I'll leave the fat on it, and that's where I'll get my fat content. I don't just have a big cake of butter there or something. It comes along usually with the protein. And then last, I'll have a small portion of starches, rice or potato, but that's a small part. And I do those things like I use cauliflower rice, that's just chopped up fine cauliflower in place of rice. If I want to try to absorb some, that gravy and things, I do conscientiously do that. But I don't count calories, and I don't say, okay, we got to divide the plate like this. I just eat fruits and vegetables because I like them, salads, lettuces, and then I have a pretty substantial serving of protein along with the fat, and then I eat a small amount of carbohydrate. That's how I do it. And I also do intermittent fasting, which we'll probably talk about in the future, where I don't eat at all within usually before noon, and I finish eating by 8. So I got an 8-hour window that I eat, 8 hours, and I don't have a breakfast. It works for me. It doesn't work for a lot of people, but it works for me.
So, Dr. Ahrens, I've got a couple of questions here, and it's all relating to what you've just been talking about. So, when we're looking at, you've brought up the topic of not being necessary. It's not necessary to have 8 glasses of water a day. So, and we're talking about the products underneath the banner that we have our product range here. So if someone says that they are hungry while using the products and we advise them to drink more water, it's not necessarily the correct advice. And what would be the reasons that they would still be hungry when they're taking the products, when they've got appetite suppressants in them?
Well, there, as you just said, that everybody's different, but it's going to take a while to train your body against what it's been doing for years and years. Your body expects you to eat the same thing this week that you ate last week. And as you change, it's starting to think, hey, I'm going to starve. We'll run out of food. Remember that your brain still is in a hunter-gatherer brain. And so, I'm not eating the same thing I ate yesterday. We must be running out of food. So it's wanting you to pile it on. It's part of your survival mechanism. And so, yes, some of our products do have appetite suppressors in there, but there are people that it will be a challenge. Just tell you how it'll be a challenge, and you can fill your stomach up with water or any other, like even Metamucil, just some thick collagen and mass that really doesn't have any calories in it, and it will trick you a little bit. But drinking that water, it's not really scientifically valid. Because their hunger signal is completely separate, and it recognizes that, hey, I'm not getting the sugar that I got last week. Something's going on. We're getting ready to have a famine. So it wants you to pile the food in. Likewise, it works the other way too, by the way. When you take diet sodas that don't really have any sugar in them, they just taste sweet. Your body still thinks it's sugar, and it spikes insulin. And so the available carbs that are in your food, even though you've cut them down, it sucks them up and puts them right into the fat tissue. So you can actually gain weight by drinking diet soda. That is proved.
Okay, I've got one more question for you. So when we're talking about Emulin, and I'd like to just ask you this question, that how does Emulin help women that are in their midlife crisis of hormonal imbalance and basically in menopause? How can it, I should actually rephrase that, how can it potentially assist and support the body whilst as us as women when we're going through menopause? What benefits may we experience in the symptoms of menopause?
Well, there's nothing in Emulin that will particularly help menopause except for the quercetin will give you some relief. That's one of the 3 ingredients in Emulin. The quercetin will give you some hormonal relief. It'll actually help your body balance your hormones. Now, it's not a miracle worker. It doesn't all of a sudden, give you hormone therapy, but it will help a little bit. The Emulin is not formulated to help. However, as you're going through these changes, and even as the other way around, going from pre-adolescent into adolescence, it's the other side of the picture. Your body going through those changes needs to be operating as efficiently as possible. Everything, your pancreas, your liver, your stomach, your heart, your lungs, your brain, they have to be operating perfectly, and in your immune system. And that's where inulin helps. So whatever changes you are going through, your body will adjust as best it can if you're already in an optimum system. If your immune system's out of whack and you don't have enough energy and your carbs are all messed up, and plus put menopause on top of that, you're in a heap of trouble. I do hope that in the future, we will have a product specifically for women in that case. And actually, men go through something similar, and but not as dramatic as women do. I do look forward to having these products out as we advance with Valentis.
Well, I certainly hope so too. Being in that age, that would be really nice. So I don't know about the rest of the ladies on here. But Dr. Ahrens, I've got one last question. So I know we're time sensitive here, but when people are hungry, would it be not having enough protein? Would that be part of it? So if they're not having enough protein in their diet and they're still hungry, would that be part there of the reason? Or is it because it's just not simply not having enough carbohydrates, or they're not having enough fluids through their system? But it is...
Absolutely. You can be hungry your body can be hungry for protein. I actually can determine when I'm protein hungry as opposed to just I want a shot of carbs. And we talk about carbs because it's quick energy and it gets your blood going and the insulin spikes up and your brain gets bright. And then your body says, oh, okay, I had some real food. But actually, even if you're worried about not having enough calories, you want to lower your calories. If you don't have enough protein in there, your body will crave it, actually fat too. In fact, there are things, little tricks people do, like they put together things called like fat bombs. And that people that are on a low carb diet, and they actually work to suppress your appetite because they let your body say, hey, this is real food. And it's just enough fat, not too much, but it takes care of that hunger that you can have. So yes, absolutely. If you don't have enough protein and fat, you will have a big appetite. It's not just about carbs.
So I need to have these little fat bombs so that I don't have a fat bum. Is that right?
I'll let somebody
I couldn't help it.
I'll let somebody else comment on that. But
I couldn't help myself.
So I was interested though. You said that, you first said menopause, you said midlife crisis. And you said you're in the middle of it, midlife. Well, you plan to live 120 years or what?
Well, heck yes, if I can. Yes, I'm going to try and do my utmost to live a healthy lifestyle and fuel my body with the best that it can. And hey, I've got a Maserati for a body, so I want to make sure well, in my head I do. So I want to make sure I'm fueling it with everything that I possibly can, that it's going to respond. And from where I've been, Dr. Ahrens, when I first started with using these phenomenal products, your creation, my whole body has loved me for what I have done. And so I feel like I'm 10 years younger. So, when I end up going to the big man in the sky, whether I'm 100 or not, I'm going to feel like I'm 55 still, because that's how I feel, because my lifestyle choices are certainly a lot better, and I am supported by phenomenal products that I choose to put into my body. And I exercise on a daily basis, and I try to get enough sleep. So, and I do not want a fat bum. So I'm going to have whatever these fat bombs are. I want to know about them. I don't know about you ladies, but I want to know.
Well, I wish you luck.
Yeah, I know. I know you're not game to say anything to me. It's like an open-ended sort of trouble that you're stepping into, isn't it? It's like quicksand when it comes to anything with women. We say one thing and we really mean another. But anyway, look, I want to thank you, Dr. Ahrens. And as always, like it's great to put a bit of humor into this because after all, we are all human beings. And I think the thing with what you've shared with us today is education. And if we can actually share this with the most important people in our lives, and that are our children, our grandchildren, because they are our future. And they are combated with more choices than we ever had as being younger children going through life, like that fast food, that quick fix is there everywhere that they turn. So for us to be able to create education and provide that to our grandchildren and our children so that they actually live a longer, healthy life like we're able to do, I thank you so much for each week for what you provide to us because it is invaluable. There's little snippets and tips in there that we're able to grab a hold of and we're able to then implement them into our life and to be able to share it with others. So thank you so much, Dr. Ahrens, for being here, and thank each and every one of you for joining us each week because without you, we would not have these calls. And I thank you for accommodating our humor as well. So it's nice to be able to be human, isn't it? And have a bit of a laugh. So thank you so much, Dr. Ahrens. Did you want to finish up with anything before we go?
Well, just remember, balanced lifestyle. Don't just cut out anything, but it's good diet. And that means the proper ratios of carbs, proteins, fats, and roughage. Exercise. You don't have to overdo it. You don't have to be a jock. Move. Get up off the couch and put the TV remote on the other side of the room. Every now and then, lift something heavy. Bound yourself. Sleep. And we had a video on sleep. Go back over that and review that. So many little ways you can help yourself sleep better. And I wish everyone a healthy lifestyle.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahrens, and thank each and every one of you for joining us today, and for those that watch this afterwards as well. We really do appreciate you. So have a good evening, have a good day wherever you may be in the world. Thank you.
Bye-bye.